Israel is going into total lockdown, as I was told on Sunday it would do. I was told about the UK going into lockdown in September, and now it's happening. And I've been told the same with Spain. It's what I was told, and this is the difference between conspiracy theory and truth. Everything I've been told so far has happened, and so I have to expect that in the future, what they've told me is going to happen again, because so far they haven't been wrong. So we will have to wait and see.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm believing it because I'm seeing it.
I like facts myself, and I like to deal on solid ground. But then again, you are working. What I think people forget is that you've been in this world, and you have connections with other people. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Charlie, well, you can probably explain it better than me. You move large amounts of money around the planet, and gold and stuff like that for people who. I read something that you'd actually seen some of these tunnels.
I've been in tunnels in the United Kingdom, and I was completely shocked. That was 25 years ago, John, when I was working for a company called Sensormatic, and we were doing closed circuit television. I was responsible for the security of all the prisons in the UK, and their closed circuit television and access control. And I was going to GCHQ to look at their system. And I was asked to look at a site in Bath, and they gave me the location of it on Lansdowne. And when I got there, it was a car park with about 200 cars in it, and in the middle of the car park was just a small square building. And inside that square building, when I went inside there, I was thinking, what am I here for? Because nobody had told me. I'd just gone to see, and I was expecting a massive building. So I've been to GCHQ and I've been to prisons, and they're big buildings. So when I see this little building in the middle of the car park, I just assumed, wrongly, because it was right next door to the park and ride for Bath, that it was a park and ride place where the people parked their cars and then maybe left their keys in I don't know what I thought. So I went into this building not expecting to be what it was. And what it was a little man behind an armor-plated glass that I had to show my identity to. And then when I showed my identity and my invitation, he opened a door by a switch, a metal door, and then it shut behind me, much like a prison door. And then he said, right, if you come to the lift. And I went to a lift, and then literally I went down, I'm guessing 200 to 300 meters underground. Now, anyone who knows the Lansdowne, where the horse racing track is in Bath, it's chalk underfoot there. So we go down, and then when I get to the bottom, I was absolutely shocked to find out that it was huge network of tunnels. I mean, huge, miles and miles and miles of roads, 10 meters wide, 5 meters, 5 to 10 meters high.
The Bath.
Lots of golf underneath Bath, underneath Lansdowne, the hills of Lansdowne.
Wow.
And when I say miles, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 miles of roads under there. A city down there, underneath the surface that nobody knows exists. And that was one of two that I visited. And golf buggies down there, probably 100 golf buggies, whizzing around everywhere.
What were they doing down there?
Well, it was used apparently during the First and Second World War for signals and also for the storage of ammunition. So not only was there all these roads and all these units and everything, which when I was there was empty. The safes were empty, which they kept the ammunition in. The interesting part for me was that there was ventilation chimneys, if you like, that just stuck out of the ground. And I've been told, interestingly enough, they were ventilation for the trains that went under the tunnels there. But there was no trains down there. The trains went on across the surface. But that's what I was told. They were ventilation for the trains. So nobody ever questioned it until I went down there and was like, wow, so that's ventilation for here. and they were absolutely huge. And I mean, the safes down there that they kept, so they said that they kept the ammunition in. You have to remember my mindset as well. I was doing the security of prisons, and I said to the main man, I said, this would make a great place to put life prisoners. If you're in for life, it'd be brilliant down here, because if they get out of here, they've got to dig through about 300 meters of chalk. I mean, it would be, yeah, I suppose it's possible, but highly unlikely. So I've actually, do you know what? You made a very interesting comment. John, you and I come from similar backgrounds. I was born and brought up in the Plymouth Brethren. You're in the Scientology church. And so you get an understanding of your journey has been planned out way in advance. A lot of things that happened in my life, that happened in my life has stood me in good stead for where I am today, because I can talk from a position of truth, because I know it, because I've been there. Mm. And what a lot of things now I'm looking back at and going, do you know what? What I'm doing right now, everything that's come into my life that I thought was, oh, I wonder what that was. I wonder what that was. I'm now starting to learn what those things were. Mm. My meetings with certain people, to do with the government, to do with the military, to do with the whole system, they weren't by accident at all. And those little nuggets of information that I didn't think were nuggets at the time, they were just chit-chat. Well, Australia breaks my heart, because as of, where are we now? We're now Wednesday. As of Saturday, I think it was, they'd finished the rescue in Melbourne, and they'd rescued over 300,000 children. And they'd finished the rescue. I had hard evidence they'd finished the rescue. And then you've got Victoria, where they've rescued 230,000 children. And then you've got, I mean, there's close to 1 million children that have been rescued in Australia. And I'm listening to them bitching and moaning about being locked down. I just want to say to them, now's the time to hibernate and just be quiet and maybe have a little word of prayer, because there's a lot of children that are being rescued that you're not ready to see what's happening. You're far from ready. You haven't even woken up to the truth of what's going on. So talking about 1 million children being rescued from the tunnels underneath Australia, I never saw it. I never thought it was even possible. It was only when I was speaking to the Marines, who are there on the ground, who've told me that what I'm hearing is true. And this is very important right now, to be able to verify what I'm saying, because I am getting told, Charlie...
For our viewers, this is what we call a buyer beware network. We are not vouching for what Charlie is saying, but I certainly am personally very interested to hear what he's saying. Just go over that again, because that is something that is new data for me, and I would like to hear it and evaluate it for myself.
Well, I will reiterate what you just said. I am not the Messiah. I am Charlie, and I have not been to Australia in the last few years. So the information I'm getting is being transmitted to me by people that are on the ground there. So these people are trusted to me. They work in the US military, and they have rescued over this is what they're telling me. They've rescued over 300,000 children from underneath Melbourne. And this operation finished at the weekend. I think it was on the 3rd, the 2nd or the 3rd. They finished the process of getting these children out from underground. I understand they've had the same in Victoria. And my first question, John, was, where the hell have these children come from? Like, how's 1 million children gone missing and nobody's been shouting about it? 9,000 people die of COVID-19, and we shut the world down.
Well, you know, Hubbard was one of the first, talking about the founder of Scientology, he was one of the first people to expose baby farming. And that's where the deep state started to go from.
This is what I've learned about Australia, New Zealand, and Africa. Africa especially, because little black babies apparently are incredibly valuable when they're very, very young. But when you're talking about farming, you're talking about them being produced underground. So the women have been trafficked, which is what Donald Trump keeps talking about, stopping the trafficking.
When Hubbard was in South Africa, the founder of Scientology was in South Africa, he came across baby farming, and he started to investigate baby farming. And that is when the deep state went nuts. That makes a lot of sense. that is when he started to expose the fact that there is such a thing as baby farming. To be honest with you, the idea of farming babies is so
disgusting,
abhorrent to me. I don't even want to put my mind into the area, but the consequences of not being willing to.
Yeah.
This is why I think your bravery, frankly, if there was a Victoria Cross for YouTube, you would basically win it. In fact, you know what? We should have some awards out there. I don't know who agrees with this. We should have some awards for freedom fighting on this planet. And you definitely should be winning it. But carry on with what's going on.
It's funny you say that, because YouTube, I think I'm one of the first people that's not received any recognition for getting to 100,000. They completely blanked me, and they haven't sent me an award or anything. So, but it's not about awards; it's about the truth for me.
Take it to 1 million, Charlie. Let's take it to 1 million. If you haven't subscribed, how do people subscribe to your network?
150,000.
How do they subscribe?
They just click on the subscribe button on my YouTube channel.
So if you don't like human trafficking, if you don't like the deep state, what they're up to, please press Charlie's subscribe button. It's very, very important.
And I will expose them because I have no fear, because I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. So everybody's child matters. And this is something that, forget Black Lives Matter, because that's a corrupt organization. But if you want to, and just one very simple point on that, white people are funding Black Lives Matter. Black people are not earning a single penny out of it. And $1 billion has gone through that charity, and has all gone to Joe Biden's campaign, who happens to be white.
I can promise you that is factual. That I have had from Washington D.C. There's no lie in that at all.
And the other thing that just is so sad, not a single penny's gone to Black Lives out of that, not a single penny. And then you suddenly learn what I've learned is that in Africa, what you were talking about with the black baby children, they are the most valuable to the traffickers. And what they should, I just wish people would wake up to the fact that this is going on, because that they're the lives that matter. These black children who are being harvested in Africa and in Australia and in New Zealand. People just need to become aware, because I got told very, very quickly by certain high-powered people, Charlie, this is time to shut up. You don't want to be talking about that. And I've gone, the moment you said shut up was the moment.
Double down. Good.
Exactly. I'm here to tell the truth. I'm not here to satisfy people.
No, I can sort of understand why the African baby or the black baby is at a premium, because I don't know if you've spent time in Africa, but it's a very soulful continent. And when a spirit is connected to the land in Africa, the purity of that spirit is almost palpable. It's almost a palpable connection to the Creator. And I'm not necessarily even here talking about a Christian thing. I'm talking about just the purity of that spirit. It may or may not have been exposed to Christianity, but it's a very, very native purity. And as far as I can understand it, when it's been described to me, and Sasha Stone, who we've interviewed a couple of times, a good friend, I know he's a good friend of yours, explained that there's some type of sort of spiritual hijacking that occurs with the energy of the child, and it's very perverted, it's very revolting. But actually, I think that the real sad thing is about this whole Black Lives Matter thing is it's being used to attack Trump, and Trump is the one person that is actually freeing these kids and getting these kids. And as you say, it's the US military that you've been told is down in Australia that has been basically doing this. Mm-hmm. And, it's very, very interesting. Anyway.
You talk about Africa. Well, yeah, I've spent a lot of time there, and I love Africa. And I think through the process of where we're going with the revaluation and the global financial reset, I've said, can you imagine Africa, South Africa, being refunded and refinanced so they have everything I said, you've got some of the nicest, kindest, most beautiful souls in the world. And what a beautiful place Africa will be, because it's already beautiful. And the people have been robbed blind by the United Kingdom, by France, by Holland, by Belgium.
Well, that whole continent has been raped.
Yes.
Metaphorically and actually reality. Physically, they have been raped. And the deep state and the international cabal of, there is nowhere that the fingerprints of the cabal of bankers is more obvious than in Africa. Right. And it has been an abomination, really. And, you know, there is legitimate concern. And as you say, I think the next great, well, actually, it's something that Mr. Hubbard wrote. He said the next great civilization will emerge from Southern Africa. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be speaking to what you're talking about, is about a new golden age. Yeah. And, you know, you described Jisara and Nasara, and I've been talking about a golden age. I think that it's pretty much a similar purpose, isn't it, in a way?
Very much so. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Africa was heaven on earth.
Well, they do say that, don't they? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's got everything. It's got minerals. It's got everything. Most countries there would function perfectly on geothermal. Yeah. My cousin has the contract for geothermal in Zambia, and it's very. There's many countries over there that could complete, like Iceland. You know how Iceland is I think 90% geothermal.
Yeah.
There's many countries where the crust, it's very close to they've got a thin crust.
Yeah.
So their energy demands can be met, but never going to happen with those bankers in there. Never going to happen.
And on top of that, they can sing and dance.
They can sing and dance. They can sing and dance.
We're in a wonderful time.
So where do we go from here, Charlie?
Well, it's just a question of hibernation until November, until the election. Once we get to the election, Donald Trump will win that by around 90%. The reason for that is that the voting system will be linked to the quantum financial system using a blockchain operation, which means that the Democrats can't fiddle it. Then the mainstream media will suddenly be held out to dry for what they really are. And as Donald Trump has said right behind the scenes to the people who he's talking to, they'll be the last ones to be brought down. And they'll come down with a bang. The bigger you are, the bigger you fall. And we've got that to look forward to. Yours and my job right now is to try and get the truth out to people so that we can take their fear away. Because what we don't want, I can't do anything about the operations that you've missed. I can't do anything about the fact that your young ones have made you wear a mask. But I can take away fear, which will stop you committing suicide and stop you having a heart attack. Just hang on to the truth and hang in there. We're going through a very difficult phase. Also, if you start just buying your own vegetables and fruit from local stores and what have you, rather than getting all this stuff that can be contaminated, then you reduce the risk of being poisoned. And it's easy in Cornwall. Devon and Cornwall's an easy place.
Well, what can I say? It's been, again, fascinating. And tomorrow we're putting out a press release tomorrow, which I'm going to share with you first thing in the morning. I can't say anything about it other than it's on that subject that we spoke briefly about on the telephone. Yep. And I will be in touch about that because I think it's a good one. And yeah. One last thing. Let's say you're watching this broadcast and you're just beginning to look at the truth. You're just beginning to open your mind. You're beginning to say, maybe this 6 people thing doesn't make sense. Maybe martial law in Wales doesn't quite make sense. How would you guide somebody who's actually not where we are, but they are actually terrified? They're scared of what's happening. What would you tell them to do?
Very, very simple, John. Go back to fact. Go on the government website. Go back to the root. So you work out that back in March, that coronavirus COVID-19 was downgraded to nothing more than the flu. When you can start from a point of truth, a point of fact, then you can start to build. But you can't start to build at this stage. You have to go back and accept the fact that the government downgraded to nothing more than the flu. And if you want to go deeper, you just go, the Imperial College London advised the government on this. And that was Neil Ferguson. And then once the British government had been advised, he then advised the American government. And then the British government advised all the European governments, and the American government did the rest of the world, based on the fact that it had been downgraded to nothing more than the flu. And I say as a joke, and man flu is even worse than that. But so if you can accept the fact that it was downgraded, then you'll ask the first question, which is, so why are we locked down? And if this second spike of COVID-19 coronavirus is so dangerous, why did you downgrade it to nothing more than the common cold back in March? And you haven't changed that. There hasn't been a published change that's been any more than the common cold since March. And yet the mainstream media and the government have played this out, which I said right from day one was to cover up the global financial reset. Now, the reason behind the second spike is to cover the number of deaths, which is perfect for the global financial reset. So when we change from the old fiat currency to the new quantum system, which again people haven't realized just yet, is that the Bank of England has been closed for 2 weeks. So look at the facts, forget the fantasy, look at the facts, and then ask the why. Why is it, if the Bank of England's been closed for 2 weeks, why wasn't Barclays, Lloyds and HSBC closed? It's because of the simple reason that they're resetting the whole systems in there and rejigging the whole system for the new quantum financial system. That's why. And the same with the Bank of Spain, the Deutsche Bank in Germany, etc. They're all shut for the same reason. And the funny thing is even if you phone the Bank of England, and I asked them a very simple question because I know they're taking down the old SWIFT system. They're taking it down. It's on life support at the moment. They'll have to keep it running for a couple of years to take all the instruments off and put them onto the quantum system. So I asked a simple question if they could give me a SWIFT code for National NatWest in London. And they've gone, I'm sorry, that department's busy at the moment. I said, that's okay, I'll hold. No, sir, you don't understand, it's busy. I went, okay. And that's from first thing in the morning till last thing at night. So I can't even get a SWIFT code from them.
Something's happening, isn't it? Something is happening. You've got to be blind not to see it.
Well, if you start from a point of fact that it was downgraded to nothing more than the flu, and then you look at the facts that the Bank of England has been closed for 2 weeks, and all the other main banks of each country, and what I've been saying, then it ties in exactly with what I'm saying. Either that or I'm incredibly lucky, John.
Mm. Well, you deserve to be lucky, Charlie.
I was told about it all before, so I'm not lucky. I was told about it, and I've put the message out there with the stuff I can say. There's still plenty of stuff I can't say right now, but when it happens, I'll be able to tell you more and more about it.